Welcome to Reflecting Light. This podcast is about filling the world with light by exploring myth, ancient texts, scripture, great works of world literature, and the works of artists, past and present, for those who have eyes to see and ears to hear. And now, here is your host, Mandy Green.
Hello, and welcome to Reflecting Light. It's great to be with you. The final shout out, our pilgrimage in the footsteps of Mary Magdalene in April is going to close registrations. This is the last time I will be doing this pilgrimage. So if you want to come, we'd love to have you come. You can sign up at forbiddenadventure.com or you can email me at Mandy Brooke Green. Brooke has an E, just like Anne with an E, if you ever watched those movies. And mandybrookgreen@gmail.com, and we will get you squared away. I'd love to have you come. It's a small group, and we get to really dive deeply into the life and the devotion of this extraordinary saint. So today I wanted to talk about the difference between belief and knowledge. We commonly talk about faith, and that has some different connotations. For example, in Hebrew, the word emunah means to be certain or faithful. Again, the Hebrew language has a context of an action. It's not so much about the nounness, but the verbness. So behaving with that kind of faithfulness, behaving with this kind of belief or this trust. Now, the word faith in Greek is pistis, which translates as trust, which I think is such a beautiful way of translating that. For me, I also translate it as devotion and loyalty to someone. But the word for belief is actually different than pistis. It's doxa. That's where we get this word doxology. Doxa means to appear, to seem, to think, or to accept. Something that is a common belief. And in contrast, doxa is not the same as episteme, which means knowledge. The prophet Moroni also talks about this, saying that your faith has yet to become knowledge, and that the quest of all of us who are believers, who have faith, belief, conviction, is that we come to this knowledge. And I wanted to talk about the knowing. There were some really quite tragic events that happened to people I care about this week. And I'm struck by the cost of knowing. The range of it is clear across the spectrum. For example, in our study of the Book of Mormon this year, we read about Lehi's vision, the prophet Lehi, who lived in Jerusalem around 620 BC, during the time of Josiah's reforms. And he has a vision of the tree of life. And I'd love to share a few verses with you from 1 Nephi chapter 8. We'll start with verse 10 and read through verse 12. This is on page 14 of the Book of Mormon. And it came to pass that I beheld a tree whose fruit was desirable to make one happy. Now, Nephi says his record is both Hebrew and Egyptian. This word happy is the word asher, and the word for the feminine goddess of the time was Asherah, right? So Asherah has the root of being blessed or happy with just this feminine ending. So is this a coincidence? I certainly think not. My belief is that the tree of life is a distinctly, and I mean distinctly, feminine. In creation, men bear seed and women bear fruit. So that's another argument for it being feminine. Verse 11, and it came to pass that I did go forth and partake of the fruit thereof, and I beheld that it was most sweet. Notice the superlative here. Above all that I ever before tasted. Yea, and I beheld that the fruit thereof was white, to exceed all the whiteness that I had ever seen. And as I partook of the fruit thereof, it filled my soul with exceedingly great joy. Wherefore I began to be desirous that my family should partake of it also. For I knew that it was desirable above all other fruit. Well, as I was reading this, so many things stick out about the properties of the fruit of this tree. The joy, the happiness, the sweetness, the whiteness. But the part that stuck out to me, this particular reading, was I knew that it was desirable above all other fruit. Now in Hebrew, the word for know, to know something, is yada. And the way I remember that is I think of Master Yoda, who knows everything. But the key aspect of knowing in Hebrew is that you know through your own experience. Knowing comes from having experience with. So, for example, when it says Adam knew his wife, they're talking about an intimate knowledge of Adam and his wife. And so to know the fruit of the tree is to truly partake of it, to no longer have belief, but to truly partake of it. Now that's on the happy, blessed Asherah end of the spectrum. On the other end of the spectrum, we have mortality. And this knowingness is going to show up for us in distinctly different ways. And I truly wish it was otherwise. But we're told that we will know to prize the good from the evil through our own experience. And so this yada, this knowingness, translates right into our own experiences with mortality, with the divine. A good friend who had a very tragic event happen this week shared this quote from Francine Benyon's A Latter-day Saint Theology of Suffering. And on the other end of the spectrum, I'd love to share this with you today as well. We wanted life, however high the cost. We suffer because we were willing to pay the cost of being, and of being here with others in their ignorance and inexperience as well as our own. We suffer because we are willing to pay the cost of living with laws of nature which operate quite consistently, whether or not we understand them or can manage them. We suffer because, like Christ in the desert, we apparently did not say we would come only if God would change all our stones to bread in time of hunger. We were willing to know hunger. Like Christ in the desert, we did not ask God to let us try falling or being bruised only on condition that he catch us before we touch ground and save us from real hurt. We were willing to know hurt. Like Christ, we did not agree to come only if God would make everyone bow to us and respect us, or admire us and understand us. Like Christ, we came to be ourselves, addressing and creating reality. We are finding out who we are and who we can become, regardless of immediate environment or circumstances. That's such a profound thought. the ache of that knowing that comes to us from knowing hunger and knowing hurt and knowing rejection, which parallel right alongside the three temptations of Jesus Christ. Now, I know we've talked about Dostoevsky's The Grand Inquisitor, and that's just a masterwork of the treatment of these three temptations. But this translation of those temptations into my own knowing has been particularly profound this week, as well as the promise of Lehi's vision that to taste of the fruit of the tree is something to be greatly desired. His knowing is shared with us as a way to say, there is more. There's a bigger picture. There's something to glean from this knowing that's also blessed and joyful and radiant and happy. And although I don't know that yet, my belief in it is strong. And in our knowing, it's my belief that we will come to know all of these things. So while it's so tempting, honestly, the temptation to shrink from knowingness, we too must engage in life in all of its knowing, the beautiful, the sad, the tragic, the trying. That's been a great reminder to me, and how easy it is to speak about belief and to talk about belief and speculate about belief. But the true gritty, earthy, heart-wrenching knowing that is part of mortality, and the promise that that knowing will also be of sublimely beautiful and amazing things. Well, those are my thoughts for today. I hope whoever you are out there that these words find you and bring you insight and help you with your conviction and your belief and your trust as you navigate this awful, beautiful knowingness of being a mortal here. Wishing you love and light on your journey.
Thank you for joining us for Reflecting Light with Mandy Green. If you enjoy this podcast, please leave a good rating and share it with your friends. And remember, your light makes the world a brighter place. Share it.